Peace to everybody out there, man. You're tuned into the Kofi Pie Side Research Team with your boy Sean P in the place. Excuse me, in the place to be. Just got done drinking some Sprizite. Excuse me. Um, Before we get started, man, I do want to say this. Like this show, share the show, tell a friend we live. Come on, do me that favor. Like the show, share the show, tell a friend we live. Don't get mad at me. Share the show, watch the show. Tap in. It's the Negro Truth Hour. Come on, man. I know y'all tired of hearing the shenanigans, the fighting, the fussing, the pointing, the blaming, the instigating, the playing victim. I know y'all tired of that. All the he say, she say. It ain't never about the information. At least when I go live, at least I'm kicking the information. Come on, man. It's a real learning experience right now. So, I'm preparing for a presentation that I'm actually going to do about a significant person in Tennessee history. And from a non-biased perspective, meaning that I'm reviewing all the work regarding this particular individual, the good, the bad, the indifferent, so that I can actually give you no romanticized presentation. I feel like a lot of times when we talk about African American history, it's romanticized. It's projected in a way, or it's framed in a way that we don't speak ill of the things that hindered our growth and development. And I feel like the only time that we really get into the other side of those things is when we're disproving some myths that other people are trying to claim happened in the history and so on and so forth. And then we got to go in there and pull some stuff out. However, when it comes to money, have black people always trusted banking? It's more specifically black banking. I mean, it's just a question. What do you know about the history of banking and African American people? Have you paid attention to the successes, the failures, the opportunities, all of those things? Have you? Appreciate that, show. I mean, really, when you look at it and you go back and you analyze certain things, how are you looking at the information that you're reviewing? Are you researching these things to support your bias so that you can present them to a group of people who may have a similar interest and also feed their bias? Or are you going in there from a non-biased perspective and actually looking at this information and trying to extract where it went wrong and how we can prevent that from happening in the future? We've done enough feel good research. We have. We've done a lot of it. We've done so much that we don't need no more. I mean, we went through eras, you know what I mean, in history. We talked about it yesterday. I'm black and I'm proud. That was a feel good era. That was one of the dopest feel good eras in history. After Reconstruction, you know what I mean, and that African in front of everything. I'm black and I'm proud was a well documented feel good movement. But do we have that same racial pride and identity today? No, we don't have that same racial pride and identity. We have an amalgamation of ignorance that surrounds, well, actually, that muddies the waters and surround us daily with more stupidity. We're in a identity crisis, a pandemic, an infodemic, and whatever else we could think of that we can pile on top of that. By the way, I gotta say this: if it was meant for me, I'm taking it as if it was meant for me. Nat Turner was not a part of any fraternal order that was predicated on a institution that people use to move things forward. Just leave it like that. I'm gonna leave it like that because that's where it's at. Uh-oh, somebody left. I done made somebody mad already. 10 minutes into the build, I done already made somebody mad. Look at Teddy laughing. That was a nice try though. It was a nice try though. You see what I'm saying? You could pump fake out people who you could pump fake people who personality worship. You know what I mean? That rock with you 1,000% and you know and just only rock with you and what you doing. And that's cool. Every player need a cheerleader. What's good, everybody? Yeah, it's the Negro Truth. Come on now, Teddy. You can't pitch a change up at me, man, and think I don't know what you about to do. It was a nice try. That didn't answer the research question. It was a nice try though. I expected better than that from the great one. But hey, let me move on. You know what I mean? I'm just friendly shots, nothing too personal and anything like that. You know what I mean? I ain't challenging you or nothing like that. I just felt like the response was a little shaky and suspect. Yeah, I'm in my bag, man. I'm in my bag. I'm in your business. I'm in your business and I'm in my bag. You know what I mean? I paid too much attention to all of y'all for so long, man. I study y'all. Study y'all, man. You know what I mean? It's a blessing to do that too, because I really think you one of the greatest. But nah, that turn nah, that ain't work. That ain't working. That didn't answer. That's right. That's right. I got a new name, y'all. Let me change my name. Let me change my name. Hold up. Hold on, y'all. I gotta change my nizzle. For shizzle my nizzle. Then we gonna get to cooking. From now on, this what y'all call me. Spicy P, the dude who don't read. Teddy said he didn't catch it until, yeah. From now on, that's what you call me. Spicy P. Heavy on the jalapeno. Heavy on the jalapeno. Come on, man. Yeah, man. So look, let's get into it, man. So look, let me tell you how we got here, yo. So I was I was reading a book for something that I'm putting together, and then I'm waiting on another book to come tomorrow. In the book that I was reading, and I promise y'all that I'm gonna make sure that y'all actually have this book, but I didn't put it in the description in this particular video. So I'm not really gonna refer to this book, but I'm only telling you how I got to the topic of today. So, like I told you, I'm doing research on a prominent person from in the state of Tennessee that was influential and did some really good things um, in the area in which he derived or lived. And he's got a significant story, one that needs to be told, and then his triumphs and failures, and so on and so forth. So, when I was reading the book, excuse me, when I was reading the book, going through it, I already kind of knew where it was going and setting me up. So I get to a point where we're talking about the Freedmen's Bank. And we talk about how this was to benefit black people because at the time, white banks didn't want to deal with black people. You couldn't get no loans or store your money or anything like that. So they was looking for a way to assist and help black people. Plus, the Freedmen's Bureau was heavily entrenched in. You heard the stories, you've seen the shows. This has been brought up in numerous arguments, especially when you're talking about the African American period of Reconstruction by Dear Brothers on another channel. However, um when the banking, the bureau was set up, they need to bury their dead, they need to do a bunch of things that was important to the people, and that needed to get done. Whether they set up pretty much derivatives inside of a church where people, they pay their tithes or whatever, people could come to the church for little bank loans and stuff like that. They really didn't have an actual institution until the Freedmen's Bank. But that was pretty much set up for the soldiers who participated in the Civil War initially. And that, you know what I mean? And then other things transpired into that, and then things got to working. But the thing about the Freedmen's Bank is they could do whatever they wanted to do. They didn't have the regulations that other banks had, but they had to get the approval of Congress before they could do anything. So if Congress didn't approve or abide by some of the things that they wanted to get done, the Freedmen's Bank was irrelevant. So, we always hear about Freedmen's Bureau and the great things about the Freedmen's Bureau, and overall, but we really never talk about the Freedmen's Bank specifically and its contributions, but also its downfalls. So it wasn't until I was reading this book, I'm being honest, it wasn't until I was reading this book and just digging a little bit deeper and trying to align things up that I realized a problem. The problem that I realized was, there was a sort of bank distrust that black people had even back then regarding some of these banks, but they would rather bank with a white bank, specifically because they felt more comfortable with banking at white banks, even though they couldn't get loans, but to put their money there because they just felt like, some people just felt like something would go wrong with a black owned bank. Like their funds wouldn't be insured, the deposits would come up missing, something. It's kind of weird. So I'm not going to pull any particular information out of the book because I did not put it in the description. And I really don't want to bring out this particular source yet. But I am going to make sure that when I bring out my presentation and things of that nature, that I actually give y'all the book free so that people could actually have access to the book. It's only 152 pages. You can knock it out in a week, or you can knock it out in 3 days, because I literally, 3 days was good enough for me. Now, I've already read it. I'm going back through the book. I'm trying to get through the book to get through some highlighted perspectives or things that I may want to extract to include in my presentation before I get to reading this other book when it comes tomorrow. So it's just the way that I actually do things. I read it, I take my notes, go back to my page numbers, I look a little bit deep into things, I get to pulling up stuff, And then if it's something that I'm interested in, I kind of want to bring it forward to the people. And or if I'm writing a book or something like that, I use that same those same steps or that method to help me be able to go back and reference something that I want to reference in order to bring that to people's eyes, and hopefully that will extract and visualize when they're reading my work, how this thing is flowing. So that's how we got here. Now, I will say this about the Freedmans. Um, the savings had restrictions against paying more than 6% interest. But in some instances, if you did loans or something like that, they had a 9% level, 9% rate at the loans. Congress hands was all over the Freedmen's Bank. All right. Remember, it was centralized in Washington, D.C. It was located off of Pennsylvania Avenue, of course, and facing Lafayette. So we know that about that. But this ain't, I don't want to let's just get into it. So I'm going to pull up a wiki article just to keep it simple. And I want to talk about the bank real quick. And it's going to tell you in a wiki article. And then I'm going to bring up some other sources, and then it's going to go from there. Now, remember, part of Freedman's failure could be put on what you'll see is the Panic of 1873. If you don't know anything about the Panic of 1873, it's pretty much the financial crisis that affect both Europe and North America. It's pretty much a long depression, the Great Depression, right? That's the Great Depression, 1929, early 1930s. But there was a Panic of 1873, which made things very stagnant. And I'll bring it up for you, and we'll see. We'll take a look at why. And I think that's important too, because I just don't want to talk about anything negative and not bring up the positives, because there was also some positives that came out of Freedman Savings Bank. And like I said, this is a non-biased approach, and it's just me using my scientific perspective to be able to have this conversation and not romanticize, oh, well, what about the Freedmen's Bank? That's what black people did. Nah, none of that. And to be more specific, I think the Wiki article may be a little off. I don't know how accurate it is, because in the other source that I'm reading, and I need to get to that, because the source that I'm reading, the number for how many people depositors is different than the Wiki article. Now I know y'all can't see it. Bear with me. I'm about to pull it up, and we're gonna go through it. Just hold on. I'm trying to get back to my book. And this is some helpful stuff. Hmm. I might need to tell y'all what the book is anyway. Come on, man. Like the show, share the show. Man, my sinus has been killing me the last few days. I know y'all hear it in my voice. All right, 61,000. All right, that's cool. All right, cool. This got 67. This got 61. It's all right. We'll just basically give a sum. Now, I don't really agree with the number that comes up in the Wiki article. So it says the Freedman Savings and Trust Company, known as the Freedman Savings Bank, was a private savings. My bad. Damn, I keep forgetting. All right, there y'all go. was a private savings bank chartered by the U.S. Congress on March 3rd, 1865, to collect deposits from the newly emancipated communities, Black people. Within 7 years of its formation, the bank opened 37 branches across 17 states and districts of Columbia and collected funds from over 67,000 depositors. This number right here is challenging because I have a source that says 61,000. However, you know, this source is coming from familysearch.org. So I don't really know the credibility of this website because I'm not about to go in there and get to doing all of that. But we could roll with 67,000 because it probably at probably early on at its highest may have been 67,000, and that could be what they may be going off of based on how they were tracking people because they used the Freedmen's Bureau and the Freedmen's Savings and Banking to identify uh genealogy for a lot of people as well because their records would have these people's names in it. At the height of its success, the Freedman Savings Bank held assets worth more than 3.7 million in 1872 dollars, which translate to approximately 80 million dollars last year, which may be the same this year or maybe like 81 or 82. Now, that's a big deal in 1872 for 67,000 depositors to have that much money in there. $80 million. Black folk, that's a lot of spending power in 1872. Think about that. Now, it says, however, the rapid development of the bank was largely driven by false claims and was coupled with mismanagement and fraud. The bank failed in 1874. So 9 years later, the bank failed. And a contributing factor to this was speculative loans issued by banks, white officials throughout its existence. Now, there is a consensus among historians that the bank's failure not only affected the savings of many African Americans, but also their trust in financial institutions. When the bank failed, did y'all know that there was a large portion of African Americans who lost money in that bank failing? However, see how I do that? However, in today's money, there was a large portion of people who, let's just say in today's money, so they say 80 million in today's money, let's say 56 million in today's money was recouped. So about $24 million out of that $80 million was lost. That's a lot of money for a lot of families. But see, this is the part where we really only talk about the positives and we really don't bring up the fact that $24 million was lost when the bank failed. And there was a large portion, like a quarter of the depositors that it affected. Now, the archives of the Freedmen Savings Bank provided unique information regarding a large share of depositors. The registers of signatures covered 28 branches between 1865 and 1874 and included information on depositors' identity, age, occupation, complexion, birth, place of birth, and also relatives. We don't need to get into how it was established. We know that a little bit. We know that the Congress was getting into all of that, and Black people needed their own bank. But let's talk about the fraud and other misconducts. Now, I really don't want to like just hinge this on a wiki article, right? I want to kind of go into another source and talk about it, but I'm gonna give you a little bit of this here, and we'll go from there. So it says from Freedman Savings Bank's creation, there were several issues in the governance and management that contributed to its ultimate collapse. Since inception, the bank trustees had little incentive to govern. All 50 original trustees were white and were not required to give any security for their faithful discharge of their trust. Many trustees had little to no involvement with the bank, with some even saying that they never agreed to be a part of the board. In addition, the charter that established the bank contained no penal clauses to bind officials. As a result, trustees were not personally liable for the conditions of the bank. The charter establishing the bank was ambiguous about how deposits could be used, with exception of very clear rule prohibiting lending until the amendment of 1870. While two-thirds of the bank's deposits were required to be invested in the U.S. government securities, the remaining available funds did not have specific restrictions. Ostis wrote of this particular fact that it was somewhat disquieting to those familiar with the history of savings banking, for they knew that available funds frequently became unavailable. One instance of the bank explicitly going against its charter was the investment of funds in the bonds of the Union Pacific and Central Railroads in the early 1869. In addition to these, there is historical evidence that banks' management misled depositors about supposed government guarantee, interest, and the use of deposit funds. During the initial years, the bank initiated a marketing campaign in order to promote the bank and attract depositors. This included using churches and Freedmen's Bureau schools to distribute bank pamphlets and other marketing material, advertising through local newspapers, and holding public meetings in churches, beneficial societies, and bank branches. These marketing materials often depicted the bank as having the financial support and guarantee of the federal government, even while the bank was a private corporation with no government guarantee. An example of this is in an article in the Semi-Weekly Louisiana, which stated that there is no possibility of loss for the reason that the government of the United States is responsible for every dollar deposited. Remember that. In addition, an interest of a rate of 6% was proposed for depositors. However, in many instances of the bank's history, depositors received a lower rate on their return of their deposits. A series of increasingly speculative investments caused the banks to accumulate bad debt. While the decision to build a new building in Washington, D.C. added to its financial troubles, and on May the 2nd in 1870, the bank managed to obtain the authorization from Congress to make loans backed by real estate. This was another issue that Black people pushed for regarding this savings bank. They wanted banks to be able to loan so that they could get real estate and land and other opportunities for them to generate some type of trust with this bank so that they could do more with the potential money. And that comes out of me reading out of the other book, by the way. The loan was approved by Henry D. Cook, the head of the bank's finance committee, who sat on the board in the query company. Bank officials also approved personal loans to themselves as well as associates of the bank. You heard that correctly. Bank officials also approved personal loans to themselves as well as associates of the bank. So the white people took out loans for themselves. For instance, loans totaling $224,000 were made to Robert Fleming, who was the contractor for the bank and building in Washington, D.C. Even as the failure of the bank was imminent, the depositors were refused from being able to withdraw their money. A secret loan of $33,000 was made to Warren Boyle by the actuary George Stickney on June 30th, 1874. Other instances include investments in the bonds of the Union Pacific and railroads made as early as 1869. The bank's management closely linked the bank's affairs to the investment of J. Cook and Company, which invested heavily in railroads. As the head of the finance committee of the bank, Henry D. Cook, J. Cook's brother, deposited a significant share of his cash of the Freedmen Savings Bank at the First National Bank in Washington, D.C., which was Jay Cook's office. So he got the money from one bank, took it to another bank. This amount at the highest was $500,000, on which Cook's brother paid a 5% interest, even while the Freedmen Savings Bank was promising 6% to its own depositors. Earlier, you heard me bring up the Panic of 1873 when it struck. Several railroad projects failed, which undermined the financial situation of the Freedmen Savings Bank. This led to a series of runs in different branches. Following the panic and an attempt to restore confidence in the bank among the African American community, that was a significant change in the leadership of the bank. Trustees of the bank disposed the founder and the president, John Alford, in March 1874 and elected in favor Frederick Douglass as president. Of this change in leadership, Walter Lane Fleming remarked, some looking for a scapegoat were anxious that colored officials be in charge when the bank failed, as they were sure it would. Others thought that a Negro administration would restore the confidence and the depositors and enable the institution to survive until better times. The bank closed July 2nd, 1874. Despite the reform attempts, some scholars claim that the failure of the Freedmen's Bank and the loss of their savings led to a distrust in banking of all institutions for several generations among the Black community. Just after the collapse in 1874, 3 commissioners were appointed to wind down the bank. They found that the value of the assets was lower than what was registered in the bank books as of July 1874. In addition, liquid assets, cash, and government securities were less than 2% of the total liabilities the bank held. Many depositors never received their deposits back after the bank failed. To repay them, the commissioners decided to rely on personal passbooks only instead of the bank books. Therefore, depositors needed to mail their passbooks to Washington to submit their claims. Many depositors who had lost faith in the bank were reluctant to do so. Others faced legal challenges in providing their identities or their relationship to depositors who had died. Some who did receive checks did not cash them as they were unaware about what their checks were. I ain't making this up. I tried to tell y'all when the bank failed, these people didn't get their money back. Who do we blame for this? Do we blame the white people that was in charge who led to this whole thing anyway? Yeah, we just blame the white man for it. Or do we blame ourselves for entrusting in the people that we thought had our best interests anyway, because some of them were potential, what was that, Quakers or whatnot? Oh, we's free. They gonna do right by us. The Congress gonna do right by our dollar. They gonna make sure that if something happened to this bank, that we get that money back. The Wiki article don't even tell y'all how much money that was gotten back, that people got back, and I think that should be updated. I really do. I really, 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 really do. Before I move forward and get into the next article, um, let me see if I can get y'all this number. See, this said at the time of the Freedmen's failure, census data suggested there were well over 5 million Black Americans. At Freedmen's peak, there were more than 70,000 deposit accounts and 61,000 at the time of failure, a number of equal to a little more than 1% of the African American population in the United States at the time. In aggregate, without adjustments for accounts held by the few white depositors in violation of the charter, The 3 million in total deposits equates to about 66 million in modern dollars, or around $1,000 per account on average. That's out of my source. The number of claimants declined. Hold on. In terms of eventual recovery for what was lost, the amounts could also vary widely. Overall, it was a process spanning nearly a decade. No depositor was made whole, unless there was some case of an unknown fraud with the distribution. The largest possible recovery by a depositor was 62% of their account's value at the time of suspicion. So if you had $1 million in the bank, you got back 62% of that. You didn't get your whole million back. For some people, other people, sure, they ain't get nothing. The funds were distributed as 5 dividends, with the first equating to 20% of deposited amounts issued in November 1875. It was followed by payments in 1878, 10% deposits in 1880, 10% in 1882, 15% in 1883, 7%. Over time, the number of claimants declined. The first dividend was sent to nearly 30,000 depositors, while the final went to a fewer than 19,000. So that's 49,000 out of 61,000 people. But at its height, there was seven. The drop reflects not only natural attrition in the original depositor population, but also a reduction in the number of those who continue to take the necessary steps to receive the payments, such as maintaining a mailing address. Some of this was likely unintentional. Future distributions were not guaranteed. So those receiving the first payment had every reason to assume there would be no additional forthcoming payments and would have had no reason to maintain contact. There is no question that many depositors, probably more than one half of 61,000, received nothing at all. Most of these were individuals with small accounts, generally less than $10. In some instances, the accounts were so small as to not merit the payment of postage to offset the amount that they would receive. Some depositors, rather than wait for the resolution of the institution, sold their accounts, sometimes for a fraction of their stated value, to speculators who in turn could use the bank books to seek payment from the commissioners handling the savings bank resolution. Finally, as be expected, there was also the ever-present fraud, with con artists purporting to be freedmen's representatives and convincing some depositors to relinquish deposit books in return for payment that would soon be distributed. Sort of the check is in the mail promise. Those fictional payments, of course, never arrived in the hands of the actual depositors, but instead went to those who took fraudulent ownership of the deposit books. Remember, this involved 37 Freedmen's Bank offices, and a lot of them was below the Mason-Dixon. Yeah, they went to work. I ain't mean to, unshare, you know what I'm saying, but I ain't want my source on the screen just yet. I'm star me out, Debo. Star me out. I'm trying to be secretive with my source. So, this is in the Chicago News, the U Chicago News, why 19th century bank failure still matters. And let's just walk through it a little bit. This was written September 11th, 2020. So, Chicago Booth study linked Black distrust of financial institution to Freedmen's Bank collapse. In 1865, it goes through that whole spiel. Congress set up a bank for newly emancipated Black Americans to help accelerate their economic empowerment. Freedmen Saving the Trust Company opened in New York, built headquarters in D.C. They established 37 branches. Quick succession across 17 states. In its 9 years of existence, the bank had a measurable positive effect on its customers, according to recent Research by Chicago Boost Constantine Yanelis and Babson College Luke C.D. Steen, Freeman's bank account holders were more likely to be literate, attend school, work, have higher incomes, and own more real estate. But the bank's records also highlighting the devastating effects wrought by financial failure and provide a window to the country's long history of exclusion and racism, including persistent racial wealth gap and the lingering suspicion that many Black Americans hold toward financial institutions. Yep. But the bank records also highlighted devastating effects of wrongful failure, financial failure. That's key in providing that window. It seems likely the collapse of the Freedmen's Bank and the loss of savings has contributed to the intergenerational mistrust of banks. So, find a new opportunity. Assistant professor of Booth School of Business and an expert in household finance, analyst visited the U.S. Treasury at 2018. Was rerouted from the main entrance due to a temporary security issue. On a detour, he came upon an annex that 2 years later had been renamed the Freeman's Bank Building. So he looked it up. In a 2017 text, The Color of Money, Blacks, Banks, and the Racial Wealth Gap, legal scholar Mesra Baradaran explains how the government originally proposed distributing land to people who had been enslaved but faced a violent backlash from Southern whites. Instead of the land, free slaves got rights that they could not use due to the economic and political status at the bottom rung of society. That's what a law professor at the University of Cal says. They also got a savings bank, which was another form of diversion that would be repeated in the next century. Customers could open an account with as little as 5 cents and receive interest on deposits of $1 or more. Most deposits were small, less than 60 on average. More than 100,000 people became customers: farmers, cooks, barbers, nurses, carpenters, likely saving some of their very first paychecks. In the banking archive, Steen and Yanlis saw an opportunity to study the effects of financial inclusion. Previous research had examined such effects in developing countries, but the Freeman record offered a trove of data about Black Americans who essentially gained access to a financial institution overnight. Because branches opened at different times, it was possible to isolate effects in individual communities. Let's see what they uncover. They obtained data from 107,197 accounts across 27 branches. After also accounting for family members who lived in it with an account holder, they totaled 483,000 individuals, roughly 12% of the population in the American South in 1870. They then lined these records up with a sample of 1870 census. Excuse me. The Freedmen's Bank, they determined, had a small but significant impact on economic well-being and outlook of its account holders. Individuals in the household with an account were 1% point more likely to be literate to attend school, the same 2% points more likely to work and have higher incomes than their peers. Yeah, it's getting interesting. Having an account may have allowed individuals to save their money for large purchases such as land, invest in workers, open businesses, the normal things that people would like to do. The research found that those effects did not extend to white households near bank branches, nor to people who live close to the planned but never opened branches. They also found larger effects for people who opened accounts earlier than people who started banking later. Let's get to the nitty-gritty. I'm going to leave this for y'all to read, but I want to get to the nitty-gritty. So, the Panic of 1873 was a death knell. As real estate prices fell, loans went bad, and depositors demanded their money back. Social reformer Frederick Douglass was elected the bank's president in a bid to save it, but he quickly became aware of the bank's dire conditions and turned to Congress. On the 29th of June in 1874, trustees voted to shutter the bank, leaving more than 60,000 depositors with nearly $3 million in losses. Remember that 3 million is 80 million today. The Freedmen's Bank headquarters were torn down in 1899, replaced by 1919 by what would become the Treasury Annex. While opening Freedmen's Bank branches seemed to have generated positive effects, closing them generated negative ones. If the government and the philanthropist's purpose was to teach the free slaves thrift and responsibility, the lesson they actually learned was to distrust the government and philanthropists, as Baradar writes in The Color of Money. I just wanted to get that out there for y'all. All the sources are all in the description of the video. I ain't got to read this one. We all know about the Freedmen's Bureau, Freedmen's Bank, and its establishment. I wanted to go to the National Archives because, I always dwell in the National Archives when talking about American history. It's a good place, especially if you're looking for some primaries. But more importantly, it's a good place to dagger some people if need be, because they're going to not only give you the primaries, but they're going to give you some other insight. And it's always accessible and at people's fingertips. So the archives is always a dope place. If you can't see this, this is a bank book for the Freedmen Savings and Trust Company, right? As you can see, it'll have the number and whatever the bank number is, and it'll have the ledge and the person's name right there, and to go all the way through. Anne Blue opened this account in Lexington, Kentucky in 1873 after the bank's demise in 1874. She sent in this passport and received $37.94 in dividend payments. So she got $37 out of sending this in. So she got a portion of whatever her money was back. This tells the story, but a little bit more specifically in a way that you can deal with state by state instances, because you're going to see South Carolina, you're going to see Virginia, you're going to see New York, you're going to see, those places. But it's just repetitive. Specifically speaking, it's repetitive stuff that we already talked about. But of course, me, I like to kill a dead horse. So this is one of the reasons why I actually have this in there as well. So as you can see, I'm scrolling down to the Freedmen's Bank depositors because, I really, I don't want to elaborate, but just to give you an idea, this mug start naming names. And if you can see my screen really good, I'm going to go right to the names. One of these enthusiastic depositors was Dilla Warren. Warren opened an account with the New Bern, North Carolina branch of November the 2nd, 1869. Her signature records not only provide an interesting example of the value of Freedmen's Bank records for genealogical research, but also give a tragic example of the effect of slavery had on the stability of the African American family. Excuse me. So they talk about Warren some more. Then they turn around and talk about her husband, Pompey Nixon. Then they turn around and talk about her signatures records list 11 of her 15 children. And then it names children, alive or dead. Then it goes on and it talks about James Clinkett. Like I told you, they start naming names in this joker. Stephen Brown from Augusta, Georgia branch. It goes into that. So this, this is instrumental in that, just being more specific. In Augusta, Georgia, look at that. Nearly 25% of the depositors was children. But think about the losses. Right? So when we talk about these things and we're looking at our history, rather whatever side that you want to build on. Hold on, let me get rid of the Russian bot. You have to realize that as long as we're providing the right type of information to people, man, we actually can get somewhere with it. My thing is yeah, we did a lot. We had a lot of good things going for us, but look how quickly a damn bank failed. By a failing bank occurring, the devastation that ensued behind it. Just think about it. Yeah, it was all good about a week ago. They had a 9-year run, 61,000 depositors, $3 million in money, which would be 80 million today. And some of them was only receiving 60% of their money back. And some people didn't even bother. So that whole other 38%, think about that. 38% of, and they would have only got a portion. This is never discussed. When we talk about everything that we've actually endured, and we like to, talk about how well we use the Freedmen's Bureau and, all of these other things, all these institutions that come off of things that helped us out or whatever. We don't ever talk about how the banking business destroyed us earlier on in the game behind that same Freedman's name. Now, let me put something in perspective. Black people had some type of banking system prior to Freedman's banking. And you heard me mention earlier when I was talking about the church. They even had people that was pretty much like loan sharks and stuff like that. People who already had businesses themselves and was already building some type of equity within. They could loan out money to neighboring people, or be some type of bartering system that would transpire, and that would be one of the ways that African Americans would actually bank with one another. But when this bank come, the bank fucked the game up. You can correct me if I'm wrong, historians, but the Freedmen's Savings Bank was a detriment. It was a detriment to the progression of black folk because it instilled in us a stigma. And it also showed us that we couldn't actually trust nobody. And if we were working to build something, we weren't going to be able to do it using that bank. But would this stigma carry on later on down the line when black people began to start owning banks and doing business with one another in the communities? We're going to set out to answer that question later on, potentially answer that question later on. Like I said, I need time to read this book that I bought, not the book that I already read, another book that I bought, because you got to organize, right? I have to read the book. I can't read a chapter and do what most people do. They'll read a chapter of a book or an article and want to argue with you for 3 or 4 hours. I can't do that. That's not proper research methodology. I have to read the book. And then if I need a source after I read this book out of that book that I might need some more clarity on, I might not be ready by next week. I might be ordering another 1 or 2 books and reading about them before I can actually come out. But I will tell you right now, I got the easiest part out of the way, and that was to talk about this person and their upbringing. Now everything else that's left, because that information I had, everything else is related to the banking institution and the financial aspects. So I can tell you what book I ordered. I don't care if y'all get this book or not. And I'm gonna give you the name of the other book. Hold on. My sinus is going ham. Um, the name of the book that I got is saying Alpha Delivery. I ain't delivering nothing on tonight. That mother must have been local. The Negro as a Capitalist. That's the name of the new book. It's called The Negro as a Capitalist. It's 220 pages. Ain't a lot. That's about 3 days worth of reading. Especially if you're reading 2 or 3 chapters a day. Depending on how the book is written. If it's written to where it's got a lot of words on a small page, it might be a little bit longer than that. But yeah, the book is called The Negro as a Capitalist, a study of banking and business among African American Negroes. Among American Negroes. It's written by Abram L. Harris. The Negro as a Capitalist, a study of banking and business among American Negroes. I don't know if any of y'all will be interested in that. But I have an interest in it because, like I said, what I've been working on. And I just put the Amazon link in the chat. And I'll tell you the other book I'm reading. Nah, I ain't gonna tell y'all. I want to keep that in my pocket. I can tell you, I don't care. It's called Let Us Put Our Money Together. The founding of America's first black banks. Pluralized banks. It's a good read. It's an interesting read. It's informative. And it's all about black banks. I think they spent too much time on the Freedmen's Bank in the earlier chapters. But I want to read something from W.E.B. Du Bois about the damage. It says, with the prestige of the government back of it and directing board of unusual respectability and national reputation, this banking institution had made a remarkable start in the development of a thrift among black folk which slavery had kept them from knowing. Then in one sad day came the crash. All the hard-earned dollars of the freedmen's disappeared. But that was the least of the loss. All the faith and savings went to, and much of the faith in men. And that was a loss that a nation which today sneers at Negro shiftlessness has never yet made good. Not even 10 additional years of slavery could have done so much to throttle the thrift of the freedmen as the mismanagement and bankruptcy of a series of savings bank branches chartered by the nation for their as special aid. Harsh words, huh? But it was real. But those are some of the things that we really don't discuss, or we hear people discuss. We feel good, but when it's time to get uncomfortable, either I'm a hater, or I don't know what I'm talking about, or I don't read, or I don't study, or something. Some type of deflection comes up. or Nat Turner pops up, and next thing you know, Nat Turner has something to do with some fraternal order that never existed at his particular time, or didn't exist for him at that time, because he wasn't a part of no damn fraternal order based on any African tradition. But it's okay. I'll ride with you. Caught your little comment. Master teacher. So that's what I'm on, man. And hopefully y'all will rock out with me on that presentation, or maybe we'll have some people in here for it or not. I don't care if it's 5 people, 10 people, or 2 people. I'm gonna drop it, and I'm gonna do a really good job at bringing some Black history to a lot of people who are paying attention to, want to know more about their history and what's going on under their feet. And I think that we need to look at these organizations, and we need to start critiquing these organizations to find out where they went wrong, what actually went wrong, why it went wrong, and what we could do to prevent that from happening again. Because we're supposed to be solutionary in our studies. Remember, in scholarship, we're trying to advance knowledge, not romance knowledge. In scholarship, we're trying to advance knowledge, not romance knowledge. Come on, man. Where Kofi at? Give me a beat, Kofi. Let's get into some of this African American hip hop culture. Let's get into that. Since that seems to be the only thing that I could think of off the top of my mind is hip hop. So they say. Shooting me, I'm shooting back. And I don't play the what is that? What's that game them people be playing out there? Innocent. I don't play innocent. From 1888 to 1934, African Americans own more than 130 financial institutions. During that same time, a number of Black-owned businesses rose from 4,000 to 50,000. African American banks in our communities and our country do make a difference. I see, I said. Jealousy, I said. Got the whole industry mad at me, I said. And B, I said, ho, remind yourself. No one built like you. You design yourself. I agree, I said. My one of a kind self gets stoned every day like Jesus did. But he said what I said has been said before. But keep doing your thing, he said. Say no more. Come on, man. I ain't on no tangent, bro. People been talking about me today. You know what I'm saying? They've been firing their shots. You know what I mean? Projecting their feelings and emotions and opinions on me, and I just stick to the information. Mad because I call them dumb and whatever else could be the case. But it's the truth. If you don't know how to recognize a claim and deal with the premise of that which is being identified as a claim, then don't project your ignorance on me. So I'm gonna call you dumb because you're projecting your ignorance on me. I'm not finna I'm not finna walk with you through, you know what I'm saying, you disabusing yourself or try to iron out your pseudo wisdom. What's Chevron that? I love that saying. No, I'm messing with Chef. Nah, I'm just playing. You know, hey, look, for the record, man, Chef, anything you need, bro. Anything you need. People people getting too emotional. Anything you need, bro. Almost anything. Let me say it like that. You know what I mean? Let me see what's going on out here. I think Kofi gone to sleep now. But look, y'all, this presentation is gonna be dope as fuck. I'm telling y'all that right now. Make sure you got your popcorn or whatever you got, cause I'm about 40. I think I'm gonna be about now I might be about 60 slides. But it ain't gonna be a lot a like forever presentation. I know people like stuff like that, like people talking for 2 hours, but it ain't gonna be that. It's not ball. You want a war? But all right, so man, look, I hope everybody pretty much learned something from the discussion today. I mean, I think I had a good time at trying to, bring this information out. Um, this is not information that some people may have not heard before, but they just never really just got into what created the distrust and what all had transpired in the making or the creation of that distrust. And if anyone did receive any finances back, and how much or what percentage did they receive back. Hopefully we answered some questions for a lot of people. And I didn't want to hinge the conversation on an article when I have, a book reference and other articles to actually deal with to be able to substantiate and back those things up. I think somebody else asked me, well, for that book title again, it's called Let Us Put Our Money Together. The founding of America's first black banks. St. Luke Bank. Why they name it after a church? Never mind. So, I wanted to come in and put some of that information out there for y'all, man, and let you know it ain't just you just Googling looking for no. I'm reading books. I was accused of not reading or not reading it all the way through or whatever. But I'm reading books. And when I get to reading something, then it takes me somewhere else. And after that, it'll take me somewhere else. And then after that, it'll take me somewhere else. So I just bounce around like that. But it's all good, man. You know what I'm saying? Some people hate. And for the record, I don't hate nobody. But y'all hate me. That's a fact. Shout out to whoever in Bolingbrook, Illinois. We see you checking out the website. We know you getting ready to purchase a couple of them spills of the Mossy books. That's a fact. It's not. Shout out to Terry. Peace, Terry. Spill Masters is on the way for you, my guy. I know you probably tuned in, tapped into the show. Spill Masters is on the way, my guy. But anybody got any questions, comments, or concerns regarding any of the information that we actually talked about just a moment ago? anything regarding the whole spill, or if anybody got problems with me saying why we don't talk about the negative impact that some of these things that we revered had on our people. Man, I don't even know what YouTube just sent me. Oh, see, when I sent the video to somebody, they reported. I knew it because I had that old pseudo stuff in there. They just reported it. Our team has reviewed content, and unfortunately, we think it violates our medical misinformation. We removed the following content. I shouldn't have sent it to nobody because my video was fine. It was up and fine. And see, they didn't even say nothing on the Mossy, and it's on the Mossy too. I'm gonna leave it alone. 95% of the creators. So what strike is this? Hold on, y'all. Let me pull this up. I refuted some false information, and I get blamed for refuting the false information. You gotta love YouTube. And I know who probably did it. You know, them anti-vaxxers, they'll try to report the hell out of some shit. One of 3 community guidelines. Your content was removed due to a violation. You won't be able to do things like upload, post, or live stream for 1 week, 7 days left. If this happens again, 2 weeks. Let me review it. Let me challenge it. I want to appeal. I ain't leaving no comment because the bots is going to do that. So I just had to appeal it. But guess what though? I ain't tripping. I got the sources to refute the information. I should have did it on Facebook too. But see, they let that pseudo stuff live, man. They let the pseudo stuff live. I knew the moment that I played Dale Big Tree, I was in trouble. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. Hold on. Why is this? No, this video ain't blocked. I just seen. Hey, somebody do me a favor. Never mind. Look at this. I got a notification about this being blocked. So they mad at this video too? They mad at this video?
Maybe he didn't say those words, but I'm one of those people who read body language. You know, body language is 80% of what you actually trying to get across. You know what I'm saying? Stop the cap. No bullshit, bro. Your words is only 15 to 20%, right? And our position. He can get down with that kind of shit, right? Maybe he didn't say those words, but I'm one of those people who read body language. You know, body language is 80% of what you actually trying to get across. You know what I'm saying? Stop the cap. No bullshit, bro.
Who the is that? What the is that? who that is.
Say, look, don't never go look for yourself inside somebody else, you heard me? Because some of these niggas out here ain't really cut like we cut. You know, we cut from a bandana. You know, these niggas cut from shit paper, you heard me? That shit sounds good until it takes place.
Yeah, my bad character having ass, huh?
I'm built for it tough, and I still hold up.
You call that bad character? I ain't even the one that I ain't even say nothing. How is that bad character? I mean, this is what I'm being told because I don't know what was said, and I ain't going back to see what was said, and I ain't trying to. Yeah, I know I can't share that on Facebook. I ain't trying to, make nobody look bad or nothing like that. So I don't want to go back and look at something and then next thing you know, let me clip this, let me clip that, and then we have another parody. I don't want to do that. But I played the video because they had they said it was blocked in some countries or something like that. Shout out to Brother Supremacy, new subscriber to the Science with Sean channel. You know what I'm saying? I think I need to do a new one of these though. For real. I think I need to do a new one of these though, for real.
I'm built for it tough.
The reason that I say I need to do a new one of these is because somebody said that I only get views when I talk about them, and I don't talk about them. As a matter of fact, let me just go ahead and clear this up for the people in the rear who might have heard that bull junk live and might believe that. Christina Parks, 553 views. The Move, the vaccine discussion, 470. Getting Unc to pass the baton was 409. So it's not the most views. Okay? Not the most views. All right? Not even the emotionalism video and a little 2-minute video are nowhere there. Okay? Let me go to the Mossy. And I just want to do this because I just want to be honest. When we go to the Mossy and we look at shows I've done, talking about y'all don't give me no views. So that was just stupid as hell. But this video, the Mad Queen of Madagascar, this is something that I did 3 years ago, and it said 3.3. My Leper Society video is at 1.7. Then you got Ben and Kofi running it all through this gap. Before you'll see another video, which is mine, which is the Serpent of Wagadu, which was 878. And then you have Kofi coming again and Ben, and then you'll see my song high 755. And then Unc's birthday show, something I did for Brother Unc that I ain't seen nobody else do. A show dedicated to Bro Unc. 743 views. Then Masanike Maribot War, 727. And then we have other videos, and then I don't come back around again to the Kingdom of Kalabari. And then the Sonetta video was 631. And then me and Unc arguing about booster shots was 629. So for someone to insinuate that me saying someone's name get me views, that was a lie. My Benin history, the women called Ematon. Like, ladies and gentlemen, I don't focus on people. I focus on information. If I say something addressing people, is because what I'm saying regarding the information has everything to do with these people not following certain scientific guidelines or are outside of the scope of scientific analyzation of critique of information. That is absolutely correct. So that was just a false claim to say that. It's really wrong to do that. Say that. You shouldn't never said that. I stick to the information. If you want to make it personal, that's on you. I don't have no personal issue with nobody. I got don't yes, I'm lying. I don't have any personal issue with other people. I have a personal issue with Unc. And I don't care who knows it. And if he's mad at me and displeased because I ain't picked up the phone and called him and it's bothered him, it's supposed to. Let it burn, like Usher say. It's supposed to burn. How do you decide what you want to add to a body of research when you get motivated to write a book? Good question. Um, First of all, man, my problem is I want to add too much to a book. So I find myself pulling back. So when you say how do you decide what you want to add to a body of research, I basically when I write out my outline, my intro, how I want to start the book, all the way to how I want to end the book, strategically, I make sure that I have the sources for each chapter that I'm going to use, and I'm filling in the blanks with those where I need to, and then I go through and go through that process to making sure my stuff line up to make it readable and digestible. And if I'm arguing against the claim, then I'm making sure that I have the supportive evidence to back my position in my conclusion, laid out in front of the conclusion. But there is a thing called beating a dead horse. And a lot of times, if we have too much information in a particular chapter about a particular subject, there must be something of interest to us. You might as well expound on that in a separate text and allow that to be its own book. Similar to something that we tried to do with Vasa in volume 2. He had written 2 chapters for volume 2. And Kofi and I, Sutek, Satepan Ra, we were saying, Vasa, to help you generate some income, to help you be able to take care of some things financially around your household and support your kids, how about you extract your second omission out the book and make it a book of its own and just add to that book, and then we could put that book out under your name, image, and likeness, and you get credit for that book. He extracted it, but he sat on it, and y'all never got that book. And I think I have it. I have that whole thing saved. My problem is that he just blew it off, and he should have built that. But that goes back to how do you decide what to add a body of research and when you get motivated about writing a book? That something that you're passionate about will always strive you to complete a task. Always. So, for instance, the pandemic hit and there was so much lies going on and people wasn't listening. And we were trying to correct the information. You had 2 channels fighting to educate everybody. And I said, the hell with talking. I said, the hell with talking. I'm done talking. Unc kept talking. I said, I'm done. Uncle like, but we need you, we need you, we need you. And I'm like, F that. I started writing a book. I said, forget it. I can't argue with everybody. So I'm just gonna write a book. At the same time, I was already preparing myself to write a book about Islam. The coming of Islam in the land of the blacks. And the reason that I was writing that book stems from some Dr. If you go to Dr. Ma's channel, Dr. Ma had on what's your boy name? Lord Abba. And he was talking kind of greasy and big up in Islam and all of that. And then he tried to act like people wasn't reading Timothy Insall work, and I'm sitting over here and I done read the whole book. And something that he had claimed before on one of his live streams and what he had said in a conversation with Class of Shabazz. So I took those attempts as motivation for me to study up for a couple of years, do my homework, make sure that I'm not being biased. And that was my motivation behind the coming of Islam in the land of the blacks, Lord Abba. Because I wanted to show him that by his romanticism and his collective bias and his romanticism of Islam, that, I had to show him that he was wrong. But I had to show myself first how to get rid of my bias and just deal with the work like I'm trying to fall in love with Islam. And that's when you hear people like Kofi saying, you acting like them damn Arabs. But I don't stop. I go. So every day I'm adding something to the book continuously. I'm writing. There's no dead spot for me. I'm writing from my heart. I'm writing from my studies. But man, when you putting a book together, you got to be a hell of a note taker, and you got to be ready to properly source your information and know how to extract your information. So if you read something that you're going to use for that book, you better have some type of method that works for you to be able to help you refer back to that work and deal with the subject matter. Or you're going to be reading a source all over again and you're going to get caught up in traps. And then that'll be an issue. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much how I go about my business, man. If I'm passionate about something, I get to it. I don't hesitate, play no games. I got to get mine. I got to get it, and I got to get it consistently because I don't want to be in a position to where I'm not prepared or I'm not ready. What I do is before I write a book, before I write before I write a book, I write my hypothesis first. No abstract or nothing. I write my hypothesis first. Because you can go back and you can get your introduction right. But my hypothesis, if I'm attacking claims or if I'm dealing with that, I'm doing that first. But if I'm writing about different topics, what do I do first? Man, I just let whatever come to my mind about the subject matter come out first, and then I refer back to my sources to strengthen my arguments. Most of my writing style has everything to do with either debunking claims or trying to provide people an avenue to obtain solid information. As far as the children's book, I would abstract that out because that would be a working framework for me. But when I'm always dealing with claims and debunking information, you're going to see pretty much more of my methodology coming out first before I really get into my bill. Tyson, go to sleep. You're doing too much. Your face is really pink and your eyes is really low. Go to sleep. Don't turn your head at me because I'm talking to you. Go to sleep. You can't go to sleep like that. You look crazy. Go on and lay on down and go to sleep. Start snoring. My bad. Sometimes you gotta talk to your dog like that. Cause they think they human. Mine do. And just like a little a kid. You know, a kid is sitting in the car seat, keep dozing off, waking back up, dozing off, waking back up, trying to act like they up, alert, fighting they sleep. That's what he doing right now. He doing the kiddie thing, rubbing his face all up on his little crate. You know I'm talking about him, so he looking at me now. Go to sleep, man. Or is the you can't go to sleep because the light in your face? My bad, bro. I feel you. Tyson is an English bulldog, but we got 10 bullies, Presa Caneras, 2 Presa Caneras, 10 bullies, a little drop, so that's why I said 10. Probably 11. 5, 6 Frenchies. So we got 2 Frenchie Fluffies. You know, that's them expensive dogs. Really, really expensive. They call, potential to be 6 figures, $100,000 dogs. We got 2 of them. Got an Isabella, new shade Isabella. He cost them bags too. You talking about $15,000-$20,000. We got 2 fluffy carriers. They carry the L4 gene, which is the curly hair. I mean, not curly hair gene, but the L4, which means they can make fluffies. Got 2 of them. And then we have a Frenchie. They call her Grinchy in the face because they look like Grinches, but she's just a Frenchie that carries 2 copies of Coco. Her genetics, her DNA states that she carries 2 copies of Coco. She got a little brindle in her, 1 copy, no mask, no pied. She can produce a multitude of colors. She just missing chocolate. So if we breed her with the Isabella, after her litter, she about to drop a litter next month. We breed her with an Isabella to get her the chocolate that she need. Then she gonna be able to make all of them. Yeah, I got a kennel. This is the kennel. You can look it up on Yeah, not chocolate in the sense chocolate Frenchies. I'm talking about their DNA. They got to be able to produce chocolate. They got to be able to produce blue. You know what I'm saying? They got to be able to produce dark. They got to be able to produce. They genetics really set the standard for how much they cost. But yeah, just your average Frenchie these days with some type of genetics in them, 7. But the more, the more. But if you look that name up on Instagram, if you got that, or on Facebook, you'll find a lot of our pups. But yeah, that's what I've been busy doing, man. So I'm multitasking. I'm working, invested in this kennel that's been invested in for a while, and trying to educate myself and others and shit. As I learn, we all learn is the motto. American Akita. Yeah, I know our homeboy. His name was Akita. The Cane Corso. I can get you the Cane Corso. My cousin got a Cane Corso in Clarksville. I mean, Press Canaras and all that. We got Press Canaras and Cane Corso access. Yeah. But look, man, Garfield got some real uh stuff going on over there on his channel, I do believe, because they still alive, and I don't want to hold none of y'all up, man. I know most people need some entertainment. It's late at night, and you might need a good laugh or something like that. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in, rocking out with me. Hopefully, people that may review this scrutinize it and take me to the woodshed and call me stupid or whatever y'all want to call me or whatever. It don't matter. Uh, I ain't afraid of critique. You might be, but I ain't afraid of critique. And it is what it is on that end, man. So with that said, make sure y'all tune in tomorrow. We're gonna have Sister CK in the building. Kofi will be doing an interview with her. She's gonna be getting out some real deal spiel. Pure said Garfield got pseudos on the channel. Yeah, I trust them around my kids. He said Jamaican dogs gotta work, no free lunch. But yeah, I trust them around. All dogs. But yeah, man, I ain't gonna hold nobody up, man. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day, man. Go enjoy the pseudos, bro. That's where everybody at. For real.